Hey guys, we got another upgrade to the home theater slash living room, and that's another new couch. This is a obviously two-seater love seat configuration, but you'll notice it looks like two home theater recliners put together. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But this video is not going to be specifically about this unit or any particular unit. I want to give you some tips on shopping for really home theater seating, but these days it's going to apply to a lot of different normal furniture seating. So we've had a lot of furniture. We've had a lot of recliners. We've got two power recliners here. These are home theater type. And we've had a lot of couches and sectionals, and some reclined, some were fixed. Fabric, leather, vinyl, I mean, you name it, we've had it. So you might have noticed that our last one looked pretty much identical, and we only had it a few months, and there wasn't anything wrong with it. We just wanted a couple changes. This was primarily driven by the wife wanting a slightly different color. This is a dark gray. She just got tired of the sea of brown. We had all three pieces matching in the brown leather, and she just wanted something different to pop. This matches some of the colors up in the painting there, or the art panels, and down in the rug. So I don't really care about the color. I'm completely fine with pretty much anything as far as normal furniture colors in here. But at the same time, I agreed to do the upgrade, and I said, you know what? If I'm gonna do that, I want to get one with some slight improvements, or really changes, not necessarily improvements, to the last one to fit me better. I'm a big, tall guy, 6'2", and I have a very tall torso. So I'll talk about exactly what I was looking for, but this is just going to be things that you should do and pay attention to when you're shopping. Now, one of my criteria was finding something that fit me a little bit better. And I didn't have any major problems with the old one. It's not that old. I did my due diligence, but I got lucky. And here's what I mean. You go on a website. This is my tip number 2. Don't purchase online. Go to whatever local stores you have. Here in the Tampa area, we're lucky enough to have dedicated home theater stores and major furniture stores with a lot of living room furniture. So the wife and I spent a day shopping, and we sat in dozens and dozens of couches, love seats, and even recliners, thinking maybe we could find just 2 more recliners and go to 4 if we couldn't find anything that we really liked. And we went to multiple stores and spent hours and hours looking before we were both happy enough with this one. It's not 100% perfect, but it's good enough where we were like, yes, we want to buy this. This will be awesome. So my major difference between the two that I wanted was a little bit more height in the back. The old one was only comfortable for me in one specific position. This one is about 4 inches taller and has about 3 inches more leg room when you put the leg up. When you're my size, it makes a big difference. The wife was comfortable in about half what we sat in and tried. And I'm talking at least 50. I was comfortable in maybe 6 of them, 5 or 6 at the most. And luckily this fit me extremely well, and it was at the last store we went to and one of the last units that we looked at. But by far, it ticked all my boxes. So you go online, and most places will have very good dimensions and things that you can check off and measure against yourself or against the furniture you have. You're going to see things like seat depth, the measurement from front to back of the seat height, recline position. Sometimes they'll have an overall dimension, but here's the thing. They don't comprehensively tell you everything. For example, the seat depth changes in a lot of these units between upright and reclined. And that's one of the issues I had with the old one. When you sat in it as a normal seat, it fit perfectly. It was super comfortable. But when you reclined the old one, what happened was the seat kind of shifted a little bit out of sync with the back, and it ended up making it shorter. So I wasn't fitting it with my butt as comfortable in reclined as seating upright. This one stays the same, so I like that. Now this one is an inch taller, the seat height. If you're on the shorter side, that might be an issue for you. My wife can't touch the floor. She's only 5'6". When she sits in it, her feet are just barely dangling. She doesn't mind, but some people will definitely hate that. So you'd want a shorter seat height. She actually loves these chairs here. She fits these absolutely perfectly. They're a little bit wider, and seat width is definitely something you want to consider too, but you can see it's also a couple inches shorter. She hits the floor with this very comfortably, and she sits in these most of all. She loves these chairs. And let's see, what else here? Okay, so seat width, that's something to consider. Now these are normal. These are what you find in probably 9 out of 10 any kind of love seat, recliner, couch. There's nothing unusual about them. But the latest trend for some of the brand new units is to go wider. And in some case, man, they come out to like here. I sat in one. It was actually our number one choice at another store. It was so wide, I couldn't put both my arms on both armrests. I had to pick one or the other. And I'm a big guy. It just didn't feel good at all to me. It was a modular system where you could mix and match armrests, seats, consoles, corner units. You know, you mix and match and make whatever unit you wanted. But the two on the ends had to be these extra wide units. They had normal width units that you could stick in the middle anywhere, and they had the power recline controls down in the seat. But they didn't make them for the ends. So I wasn't really keen on that. There's just so many things that you only know if you sit in the units. Now here's the thing. We looked at 50 some units. If I looked on the website and I was looking at just the specs for all of those units, I would have no problem buying probably half of them purely based on the specs. And that tells you how incomplete just website information is with this kind of purchase. That's why I said I got real lucky with the last one. I measured it out and I knew that was going to be basically what I wanted. But as far as the feel, the fit, that was pure luck that it fit me. So here's what I was looking for as far as fit and finish and the feel of it and the deal breakers. This is how I went in and tested stuff. I would see it, first of all, and if I didn't like the looks, which I like the looks of 9 out of 10 of them. They're all really nice looking these days. If I liked it, I sat in it. Pretty simple, right? So I guess what I'll do first is just kind of go over this one, show you its features, because I can talk about some differences to the last one and why that may or may not be important to you. First of all, they are both real leather, top grain leather. Same with our recliners here. We've had a number of different materials. Like I said, it is super important that you get real leather. If you have any intentions of keeping your stuff for a while, if you have rambunctious kids or pets, it is going to be so much more durable over its lifetime. I cannot stress that enough. We had another recliner couch that you guys didn't see. It was in our previous home. And it was that, what do they call it? They call it a bunch of different stuff. Leather gel, bonded leather, whatever the fake term for not full leather is, skip it. What ended up happening was, and we had that, maybe 8 or 9 years. Mechanically, it was great. Whole thing lasted like it was brand new, and it got used a lot. But all the surfaces where you touched, it was the older kind where it didn't have this solid one-piece leg design, so it had the separate sections that kind of folded out when it reclined. But every edge of every part that you touched, whether it was on the armrests or the seat where your butt was rubbing or where your legs would contact the pads here or the headrests, it all started to debond and rub away, and in some cases split and crack. We had ugly looking vinyl patches. You know, it just looked terrible. It rubbed down to the base gray vinyl layer. Leather doesn't do that. It's super easy to clean. It's extremely durable. It does have a break-in time, and I can't wait until this breaks in because right now it's a little stiff. I've only had it several days here now, but just spend the little bit of extra money. Don't even consider fake leather or vinyl. That's my tip number one. So bear in mind, everything I'm going to talk about here is stuff that does not convey. You cannot tell over the internet from photos, videos, or specifications. So when I was looking for stuff, I just used quick litmus tests. Within 2 seconds of sitting down, you should know, is this going to be comfortable or not? Immediately, is there any hot spot? One thing that knocked out quite a few of them was, how did the cushions support you? The last one had power recline, headrest, and power lumbar, which was really cool, but power lumbar is pretty rare, even on higher end units, which isn't a big deal if the lumbar is good to begin with. In most cases it was, as is in this one, but not all. Some, this is just crazy. I don't understand how they can design some of this stuff and sell it. Some, it was so puffed out, you ended up sitting like this. Just with like you had a pillow in your back. There was no give in the lumbar region of the back at all. Some others were completely the opposite, and you just sunk in. A couple of them, this is going to date me, but do you remember sleeper sofas where you would pull out this horrible twin-size bed and you were sleeping on a mattress piece of foam, and underneath it were metal bars? And if you slept on one as a kid, you remember the feel of those metal bars. Well, some of the seats had those freaking metal bars underneath the padding in the frame, and some you even felt in the seat. Just blows my mind that they could design something like that. So within a couple seconds, if you feel anything out of the ordinary, if the lumbar is bad and it doesn't have lumbar control, get up. You're done. Again, you can't tell any of this ordering online. The controls are very important, assuming you're going for a power type seating. In my opinion, controls should be exactly where your hands are at all times. You should be able to just touch here on the cup holder, touch on the inside, touch on the outside. I don't care which of the three it's in, it makes no difference to me. I will say that if you use USB devices, pretty much all of them have a USB port with the switches. If you do use that, you will find that the type on the outside or the cup holder much more convenient. Our previous one had the controls on the inside, and what happens is when you plug the wire in, you end up having to sit over a little bit so you're not digging into the cable or breaking it off in the port. So just bear that in mind. I don't use it at all, but my wife uses it all the time. So she just keeps the cable here in the console. But the switch position, I mean, it should be a go or no go, and this certainly was true. Most of the units, just fine. It was in one of the three, and it worked beautifully. The number one unit that we had picked out at another store, we weren't done shopping, but it was at least top on our list, but it had things wrong with it. I wouldn't have loved it. Had the switches right here, just like pretty much anything else, but when you reclined the unit, normally with these types of units, the base is stationary. The arm stays wherever it is. Sometimes the seat will move a little bit, and obviously it will recline. This particular one not only moved the seat, but moved the armrests too. It was a wall hugger design. And what happened is, when you would recline it, this would scoot forward. And when you were reclined, there was 1 foot of measurement distance between your hand and the controls. They were literally here, down on the side. And it was an extra wide unit with a huge, puffy, very comfortable armrest. This is how you had to adjust your seat from the reclined position. You had to sit up and reach over like that. So that's how you would have to recline it too. Keep holding it, recline it, and then lay back. It was ridiculous. but it was also a ridiculously comfortable seat. It had the best leather. By the way, it was $3,000. It was the most expensive one we were looking at, just for 2 seats and a console. It had the leather of the finest automobiles on the planet. Ferrari, Jaguar, Rolls-Royce. I mean, just pure luxury leather. It was beautiful. But who the hell would buy that if they ever sat in it once? Blows my mind. But again, you wouldn't know that if you were just looking online. And that was one where I looked on their website and said, you know, this is on my list to specifically look at, because it had all the features and ticked all the boxes on paper. So here's a biggie, and like I said, this is one that was important to me, coming from one very similar, just a couple little changes. Again, my other one, in the seated position, if I would just raise the headrest a little bit, and this is about where I liked it, boom, absolutely perfect. Both of these, great in seating position. However, in the recline position, what would happen is, right now this seat in the back is staying completely locked. And now as I recline, it's just flattening out. The other one would just have the hinge in a slightly different position. So what would happen is, in order to put my head where it needed to be on the headrest, I had to scoot down a few inches. So my butt was no longer in the actual meat of the back to the seat. So my head was right, but then my legs were dangling off, and it put pressure right here because I didn't have any support under my ankles. So it was like that. Now, if you're not a guy like me that's tall with a tall torso, that's not an issue, but it was for me. In this particular one, you can see that if I scoot back and recline, and by the way, this one reclines further than I need it to. So this one goes to an almost lay down position. You can see my head is still well on the headrest with a few inches above. So that's fine. I actually watch TV, because it's not like my TV is up on the ceiling, but you could sleep in this. You could legitimately, after Thanksgiving, be out like a light in this in 10 minutes, trust me. But I watch TV about here. Just about the same recline position as my old one. Even though this goes further, I'm not actually going to be using it for that. Here's the other difference. This is a newer feature in some units. The headrests used to just tilt. Just like the backs, they would just be on an axis pivot. The newer ones will either come out at an angle, so they come up and forward at the same time, like a 45-degree angle, or in the case of this one, they come up and pivot. So you have the best of both worlds, and that's what this one does. You can see it comes up and pivots in both directions. So you can really customize how you want it, the pivot and the drop. Now this is the only thing I hope gets better soon is, this is pretty stiff. Now I've sat in this for hours and hours already, and it is improving compared to this one. My wife has only sat in it once so far. It does take a little while for the leather to really soften up, and it is the leather. The foam itself is very compliant, very billowy and cushy. So it's getting better, but don't be alarmed out of the box. If you get a leather unit and you feel some spots that are just stiff, it takes a week or two. Gets a lot better. So if you have the need for a reclined position for your watch position like me, because the TV is up higher, something like this with more adjustment than just a pivot can be very important on a headrest. So here's another feature, and this is very common these days, but has only been in the last few years, a complete seamless leg support. Sometimes you'll have a gap here between the cushion and the legs, at least one gap. And that's really phasing out. Virtually anything you buy is going to have this, but trust me, this is what you want, because with gaps, it just feels wrong on your legs. This feels like a first-class airline seat, like the most comfortable RV seat. I mean, it's just, you don't notice it at all while you're watching a movie. And in the right recline position, you're really in like a 0G environment and your body's just supported perfectly. So here's a little thing in most cases. Our old one had the same configuration of 3 armrests, all of which have storage. The old one had support for their universal accessory system, which was really cool. And I will miss it, but it wasn't a deal breaker for me. That's where you can put in things like tray tables and drink holders and lights and phone holders and tablet holders and even ashtrays and all kinds of stuff. And usually if you have that option, they'll have enough room in the side compartments to at least store the storage trays, and that's how our other one was. So we have 2 side compartments and they're soft close. So was our old one. In the center compartment, this is something really cool that I love about this that was, again, kind of by design, but in the end, luck. So we have the center compartment here. By the way, our old one was not soft close, but if yours uses these standard cabinet hinges, these are just Home Depot, Lowe's, French hinges with the soft close feature, you can upgrade them. Spend $5 and then it no longer slams down shut. If you have kids and you don't want to hear this thing slamming down all the time, spend $5. So this unit here, we were looking at it in the store, and it had the center section in. So it looked like a normal love seat. I'll throw up a picture here. This is Photoshop, but this is what it looks like with the center section in. So I had the epiphany because one thing that I wanted to change, again, and it wasn't specifically about the units, but when I was reclined and listening or watching a movie, my left rear speaker was blocked. When you're sitting, no problem. I'm above the couch, ears have clear line of sight, and of course that's how I've calibrated the theater. But in the recline position, in the old one, and yes, it makes that farty leather noise, I'll treat it eventually. With the center section right here, it was completely blocking that left speaker. Couldn't hear it at all. Any rear surround effects were really coming from the top, Atmos speakers, and my right rear. And I'm looking at this in the store. My wife's sitting in it, and I'm like, you know what? I think for this one, what I'll do is just not put it in the center. Now, I was thinking it wouldn't be the best solution because the way these backs go on, including the center, is there are basically rail posts and they slide down and click into place. And with the old one, you had the 2 rail posts for the center sticking out here and then a slight hole where it would be. But we don't have kids and the dog never gets up here, so it wouldn't have been a big deal. And it would have created this nice space so I could hear the speaker. And I like the look. This one, it turns out, is designed specifically to do that. So I'm unpacking it, and the way these are usually crated is the base is down on the bottom, these are detached and they're face down on top of here, and then the center in the center. No center. I go, oh, great. So I unwrap everything just to make sure I read the instructions. Boom. This thing has a storage compartment specifically for the center back underneath it. It's a zippered compartment just to hold that. And this is all fully leather. There's no post sticking up. It operates the reverse way, so if you want to run it like this to look like 2 theater recliners, you can. Love it. Totally solved the problem. But in your case, if yours isn't designed like this, it still may be a great option as long as there isn't some big gaping hole there or it looks really ugly. It's something to consider. Something else that simply doesn't convey over the internet. I would sit in some and everything was fine initially until I went to actually move around in the seat. And what would happen with quite a few of them, I'm again amazed that they would design these things and expect them to sell. It was like sitting on a beach ball. the springs in the seat must have been curved, like a leaf spring. So what would happen is, in the better ones, you sink in and you're supported, you have even support, you have no pressure points, but you have even support on your thighs and your butt, and it just captures you, and it feels relatively flat and comfortable. These other ones were like sitting on a ball that you would be able to rock on. You would actually fall to the side because it's rocking under your butt. It's not moving, but it's like you're sitting on a dome. You're not into the cushion. It's just staying like this. And there was nothing you could adjust. It's just the way the springs work. So we were in all these awesome seats with great features and great looks. I was like, who wants to sit like this? You couldn't comfortably sit in the middle. It just felt like you're doing this. Blows my mind. So this was something that the wife was using as her kind of deal breaker. She was mainly concerned about the color. Fine. I was fine with pretty much any colors that we looked at. But when you put the units out like this and just lift your legs, didn't matter if it was reclined or not, more than a few of them were very flimsy feeling. And these were not cheap things. I mean, we were looking at things between recliners, they were starting at about $1,500, and we were looking at couches up to about $5,000. And even the very expensive ones just felt flimsy. They all advertised the same, fully box frame, steel, solid wood, blah, 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 blah. They all looked great on paper. Again, this is my point. But you sat in it, and if you put any pressure down on your legs, like if you were trying to scooch like this, a lot of them collapsed. Like the leg position, the leg parts were on some kind of spring mechanism and not a linear motor. And it just felt cheap. So she knocked a lot of those out. You can see that this one, I'm actually pushing down and it's altering the geometry. This has the ability, if you put pressure down on your legs as it's reclining, you can, I don't know what they call this position, but it's not legs out straight. It is super comfy. Now if I put the headrest up a bit, oh, this is just a total relaxation TV viewing position. And all I have to do is lift my legs up a little bit if I want them straight. But it's not moving around. That's the point. Now another feature that I'm going to miss, that the old one had, this doesn't, that might be very important to you, it's a fairly new feature coming out on later models, is memory. When you have controls like this, the more controls, the more important this is. Having a memory, just like in a modern luxury car, is super convenient. When you get everything in just the right position, and again, the more things you have that move, the more important it is. Yes, you'll get used to exactly where you want to put stuff, but it was so nice pressing one button and having the thing go exactly where I wanted every single time. Again, more so important in the old one because there was literally one position where it was comfortable and I still had to slouch down to get there. This one doesn't have memory. Not a deal breaker. I've already figured out exactly, some positions that are very comfortable. So I'll miss it. It's one of those things where if you've never had it, you probably don't think it's important, but trust me, it does make quite a bit of difference. I wouldn't pay extra for it as far as, if you find two units that you love and one's $500 more and really all you're getting is the memory, don't spend that on it. But if it's a really cheap option, definitely go for it. So this is a tip for anyone like me that needs to put their seat, due to lack of space in the room, directly up against a wall or as close as possible. Some units will have a wall hugger design. In some cases that means, like I was talking about earlier, the whole thing slides forward. In other cases it simply means it doesn't recline as far. That was the case with our old one. Luckily it was just enough, even though our TV is fairly high above the fireplace mantle, it still went far enough back to be in the proper position, so that was fine. This particular one reclines a little bit further and does require more space from the wall. The old one only needed 3 inches from the back of the headrest to the wall. That's very close. That's awesome. So that's leaving about a 1/2 inch gap, fully reclined with somebody in it, so it's not going to be hitting and damaging the wall. This one was specified that it needs another 9 inches of clearance. So yeah, I wasn't really happy about that looking in the store, but we liked the unit, so I was going to live with another 9 inches of space eaten up. Every time I do a video, there's Clover with the piggy. She knows the camera. Yes, you're very cute and very noisy. What I was surprised to learn is that specification wasn't from the back of the headrest, it was from the base. Again, there's no standard. So in this case, it ended up being in the exact same position as the old one. The base is out further, but this in the seating position is leaned back and has a different shape to the cushion and everything, so your head is exactly where it was in the old unit, and it reclines more. Can't tell that over the internet. And my last big tip, shop smart. When you go into a store, this is the most critical thing you have to realize. Ordering online, it's simple. You might have a coupon code, there might be something on sale, it's just crunching the numbers. You might have a shipping cost, you might have sales tax. That's it, it's as simple as it gets. When you go into a store, any physical store, especially any physical store with salespeople, they work on commission. This is not a negative thing. I did a lot of sales, I'm very good at sales, I hate sales. I know how it works. It's just shady as hell. I don't care what you're selling, with very few exceptions, and we're talking higher end stuff. They're just out to make a buck. So in the store we ended up purchasing this one from, very nice sales lady, fairly knowledgeable. I do not expect any of them to be fully knowledgeable. For example, she didn't know about this center feature. I was talking to her and we were looking at the unit in the store to see if it was possible to take this off, and she had never heard of the idea before, and obviously, like I said, didn't know it had the storage. But other than that, she was great. We told her exactly what we had, what we were looking to change, features we wanted, materials, blah, 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 blah. She directed us to, I don't know, 15 or 20 different units that fit the criteria in her store, and did a great job until it came to the price. So this was $2,400 and something. MSRP. By the way, nothing sells for MSRP in store or online. They're complete bullshit. What you need to do to find the real average sale price is just look in them between holidays, middle of the week, nothing going on. It's going to be on sale. All right, whatever that normal sale price is, that's your base price to start bargaining from. Forget MSRP. In this case, it was $1,950 something. So that was their real base selling price. Okay, fine. I would have paid that for this unit. I paid more than that for the old unit, getting discounts. That was a legitimate $2,600 unit, and it was, again, mail ordered, so not cheap to ship. It actually came from a home theater store in California, yada, yada, yada. Got a good deal on that. No problem with that. This one, it's local. It's not going very far. So I wasn't going to pay for shipping, and I didn't want any extras. Again, they work on commission. She tried to push everything. She tried to sell an extended 5-year warranty, which, if you have rambunctious kids or large pets or anything that's potentially going to make a mess or damage it, it was a good deal. It was an extra 5-year mechanism and material stain or damage warranty for $300, and you could probably bargain that a little bit if you're interested. That was a good deal. But it comes with a 1-year manufacturers. We don't have kids, and she doesn't damage anything like that. So it's not an issue. Everything that we have stays in like new condition forever. So, unless it's fake leather. So, she was kind of pissed because, boom, that's almost all commission. When you buy those warranties, the odds are not in your favor that you're ever going to use it. So that's gravy sales for salespeople. They make huge commissions on extra warranties, usually in the realm of 40%. So, there's 140, 130 bucks gone off for commission there. So the other thing was the price itself. We're at the station, going over the money and all that. And so the wife, well, let's go sit in it again just to make sure, get out of earshot. And I said, look it up online, because this is a major furniture chain. And sure as hell, you look it up online, the online sale price was 150 bucks less than what her best deal was. And we had to bargain for that. We had her down to 1,580. So, that was really good. Looked it up online, and it had one of those, spin the wheel to see what your extra discount is. Bottom line, 1,457 is what we got it to online. She was pissed because that's just all off her commission. She doesn't give a crap what the price of the unit is. She just cares about how much percentage is her commission. And they work different ways. After you hit certain tiers, one of her tiers may have been $1,500 because she was fighting hard to keep us just over that $1,500 level. Didn't go for it. It ended up just below. And she called the manager over, and the manager didn't give two craps. He didn't even ask her any questions. She just said, price override. The wife held up her phone. He said, okay, there you go. Have a good day. And walked away. But she was fuming. So we got it super cheap just because we knew the game. When you're in a furniture store, pull out your phone and see what they've got going on the website. There is no correlation to the website versus the store in many cases, because that salesperson is out for numero uno, themselves, their pocketbook. You need to be out for yours. All right, that's all I can think of. I'm ecstatic about having this unit. I do not plan, I don't care what the wife says about the color, on getting rid of this one anytime soon. I'm happy. She says she's happy now. We're both happy. I'm just going to enjoy some movies. Hope this helps somebody. See you next time.